Curious George and the Firefighters by Margaret and H. Gray. Read to you by Ethan Elharar. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. Today George and his friend, the man with the yellow hat, joined Mr. Gray and Hare Class on their field trip to the fire station. The fire chief was waiting for them right next to the big red truck. "Welcome," he said, and he led everyone upstairs to begin the tour. There was a kitchen with a big table, and there were snacks for everybody. The fire chief told them all about being a firefighter. George tried to pay attention, but there were so many things for a little monkey to explore, like the shiny silver pole in the corner. Where did the pole go? George was curious. Whoa, it went back downstairs? There was the great big fire truck. There was a map of the city, and there was a whole wall of coats, hats, and big boots. George had an idea. First he stepped into a pair of boots. Next he picked out a helmet. And finally, George picked out a jacket. He was a firefighter. Suddenly, the firefighters all rushed in. "This is not my helmet," said one. "My boots are too big," said another. "Hurry, hurry," said the fire chief. A bright red light on the map of the city told him just where the fire was. There was no time to waste. One by one, the firefighters jumped onto the fire truck, and so did George. The fire truck with all the firefighters sped out of the firehouse, and so did George. The siren screamed and the lights flashed. The truck turned right. Then it turned left. Woo! Went the whistle, and George held on tight. And just like that, the fire truck and all the firefighters pulled up to the pizza parlor on Main Street. Smoke was coming out of windows in the back, and a crowd was gathering in the street. "Thank God you're here," cried the cook. The firefighters rushed off the truck and started unwinding their hose. They knew what to do, and George was ready to help. He climbed up the hose rail. One of the firefighters saw George trying to help, and he took George by the arm and led him out of the way. "A fire is no place for a monkey," he said to George. "You stay here, where it's safe." George felt terrible. George sat down on the bench and looked around. Next to him, on the ground, was a bucket full of balls. George reached in and took one out. It fit in his hand just right, like the apple he had for snack. A little girl was watching George. He tried to get the ball to her, but she was too frightened. George took another ball, and another. "Look," a boy said. "The monkey's juggling." The boy took a ball from the cage and tossed it to George, but it went too high. George climbed up on the fire truck to get it. Now George had 4 balls to juggle. He threw the balls higher and higher. He juggled with his hands. He juggled with his feet. He could do all kinds of tricks. The boy threw another ball to George. George threw a ball back to the boy. The little girl reached down and picked the ball up too. Soon all the children was throwing and catching balls back and forth. The fire chief came to tell everybody that the fire was finally over. Just then, the little girl laughed and said, "Look, Mummy, a fire monkey." "Hey," called the fire chief, "what are you doing up there?" "What a wonderful idea," the little girl's mom said to the fire chief. "Bringing this brave little monkey to help children when they're frightened." "Oh," the fire chief said, "well, thank you." Before long, the fire truck was back at the firehouse, where a family voice called, "George!" It was the man with the yellow hat. "This little monkey has quite an adventure," said one of the firefighters. "Is everybody all right?" said Mr. Gray. "Yes, it was just a small fire," said the fire chief, "and George was a big help. Now the field trip was coming to an end, but there was one more treat in store. All the children got to get a ride on the fire truck in their neighborhood, and they got even their own helmets, even George, and it was just the right size for a brave little monkey.